Колеги, ми
Dear colleagues, we continue our working day, and I give the floor to the American journalist of Ukrainian extraction, Mr. Yaroslav Koshiv, who will present his own book, MH17. Thank you very much. I will speak English, however.
So far, the only book on the MH17 tragedy. It's called MH17, The Shooting Down of the Malaysian Airline. Since the shooting down of the airliner on July 17, 2014, all but 2 of the bodies of the 298 bodies that were on board have been recovered. I'm going to list a series of conclusions made in the book. First of all, the MH17 was shot down from territory controlled by the pro-Russian militia and crashed in their area. In the first 2 days of the accident, or the shooting down of the plane, the pro-Russian militia attempted to cover up evidence that a Russian missile shot down the civilian airliner. First, it removed 40 bodies from the crash site to conduct autopsies with the intention to remove the bomb fragments. Second, it cut apart the pilot's cabin that took the brunt of the bomb fragments in an attempt to recover these fragments. The militia attempted to prevent international investigators from having the 2 black boxes, that is the voice recorder and the flight data recorder. Now, this attempted cover-up failed because Dutch investigators found many fragments in other bodies and in the wreckage. And under strong international pressure, the Donetsk officials gave the black boxes to the investigators. At the crash site itself, the militiamen behaved very badly towards the international observers and journalists, often threatening to shoot them. The militia also recovered the bodies in a very disorganized and often careless way, causing many of the bodies to unnecessarily decay in what was a very hot summer. In the first days of the incident, locals determined the exact launch site of the missile that downed the civilian airliner. Experts in Europe analyzed the bomb fragments, determined from which specific warhead the fragments came from, the missile, and the launcher. Many witnesses in Ukraine and Russia reported seeing, as well as photographing, the suspected Buk that shot down MH17. In Russia, the suspected Buk was seen leaving a military base in Kursk and later returning to the very same base. The big question is, why was MH17 shot down? I've come to the conclusion it was mainly because of incompetence by the Russian military crew in the book and the officers controlling the book. Their intention was to shoot down a Ukrainian military transporter called an AN-26. Instead, it shot down a civilian airliner that every day passed over the same Donetsk area. And this civilian airliner was one of 50 civilian airliners which flew over Donetsk that very same day. Now, the reason I say that this was due to incompetence was, first of all, the Boeing identifies, a civilian Boeing identifies itself on radar as MH17. A military plane doesn't do that. It doesn't identify itself. Second, MH17, which is a Boeing 777, flies twice as fast as an AN-26. All the characteristics between these two planes are very, very different. For example, the Boeing 777 flies twice as high, or flew twice as high as the AN-26. The Boeing had 2 jet engines, while AN-17 had 2 propeller engines. Only a trial could determine why the Russian crew was so incompetent to mistake MH17 for AN-26. Now, the Russian officer in charge, as far as one could determine, in charge of the book, was Sergeant Ivan Krasnoshporin of Russia's 54th Kursk Anti-Aircraft Defense Brigade. Now, in Donetsk region, the military commander in charge of the book was Sergei Petrovsky, the chief of intelligence of the Donetsk militia, a Russian career officer with long experience in various places, especially Chechnya. Now, at the time of the shooting, the 3 top officials in Donetsk region, or Donetsk Republic, was the Prime Minister Borodai, the Commander-in-Chief of the Donetsk militia Strelkov, and the First Deputy and Security Chief Antufeyev, all 3 Russian citizens. So I maintain the conclusion that this was an all-Russian affair, from the book to the officers involved to the political persons in charge of the Donetsk Republic. The other major conclusion is that this was a war crime because the weapon was brought from one state into another state with the intention of killing somebody. And the responsibility for the shooting down the MH17 rests on the commander-in-chief of Russia's armed forces, which is President Putin. So, in conclusion, I hope that at some point the people responsible for this will be brought to justice. Thank you.
Дякую, пане Ярославе. Переходимо до...
Thank you, Yaroslav. We switch to questions. Colleagues, do we have any questions? Yes. Please introduce yourself. Oksana Krychko, Ukraine Crisis Media Center. Today we had an information that on the 18th of October, the Netherlands will present their results of investigation. What do you think they will tell us? Whether there will be some specific facts?
Divided the investigation to MH17 into two parts. One is a pure accident report, which is what you will see in October. And the other one is a criminal report, which will be done by the prosecution service of the Netherlands. So what we expect to see is a very detailed report of actually what happened, not who was to blame, but actually just what happened. And I am really looking forward to it because I think that my report will be backed by this official report. And what I'm planning to do, the day it gets published, I'm going to analyze this report and publish a second edition of this book.
Дякую, пане Ярославе. Наступне питання, мабуть, англійською.
Thank you, Yaroslav. And the next question in English, probably.
17, 3 hours after the crash. I then worked 6 months on the crash site. I walked more than 2,500 kilometers, searching, photographing, identifying parts of the plane, finding pieces of the missile, and having a lot of issues with getting that evidence to the Dutch and Australians and Ukrainian joint investigation team. And it's still ongoing. I haven't yet read your book, but I'm interested to know what's actually in it. Because in July of 2014, I met 2 members of the book crew in Torres. I also have a photograph of one of the commanders. That information is now with the Joint Investigation Team, as is the photograph. I have worked on it for a very long time. My question is, I would like to know your sources on MH17 because for myself personally, having worked so long on the crash site, I would like to just understand where you got your information for your book.
Well, the information is sourced. Every chapter is sourced, and if you could buy it from Amazon, and also I could just send you a free copy, free ebook. If you just give me your details, and I could do that. So you could see the sources. I mainly focused on Dutch sources, mainly because they're the best. They're the most committed people, most interested. Dutch journalists, in some cases, don't go just to report on the site. They actually secretly collect evidence, which then become quite important in determining what kind of missile shot down MH17. What do you plan to do with your information, besides giving it to the investigators? And how were you able to do this? Spend all this time tracking the site. I mean, do you have special qualifications? Did you belong to the investigation? I mean, how'd you do this?
Пане Ярославе, я думаю, що ці питання можна буде обговорити після закінчення.
I guess you will be able to talk about this after the briefing.
Yeah, okay.
Дозвольте ще одне запитання.
Can I ask another question? How much your book costs and whether you can buy it anywhere in Ukraine apart from Amazon in the printed version? Regrettably, there's no printed version in Ukraine.
It's not available in Ukrainian version. I hope it will be, especially the second edition. as far as we're to buy it, only on Amazon. Amazon sells it around the world, and it's no problem. I just don't know whether Amazon, do people buy books from Amazon here?
Yes.
Oh, well, in that case, there's no problem. If you could get a e-book, or you could get a hard copy like this. How much? It depends the country. I don't know what it's in hryvnia, but in, say, dollars, it's $10.
Дякую, пане Ярославе. Чи є ще питання?
Thank you, Yaroslav. Any other questions? If there are no other questions, we'll round off. Thank you very much, Yaroslav, and wish you every success.
Дякую. Колеги, наш наступний прес-брифінг рівно о 16-й годині.
Our